now so that we can share it in the future. To go ahead and introduce all our panelists today, my name is Ben Feldman. Again, I'm the policy specialist here with the Farmers Market Coalition. We also on the panel today, we have Corey Chapman. Corey is the Link Up Illinois Program Manager with Experimental Station. We have Lindsay Miller. Lindsay is the Outreach Coordinator with Illinois Stewardship Council and also the Market Manager for the Old Capital City Farmers Market. We have Janie Maxwell, who is the Executive Director of the Illinois Farmers Market Association. And then joining us today is also Kathy Zeman with the Minnesota Farmers Market Association. We're going to spend some time today talking about what it takes to engage with your elected officials and tips and strategies for you to do that. So we're going to be talking primarily today about a visit with Representative Rodney Davis to the Old Capital City Farmers Market in Springfield, Illinois. As you can see from the picture here, this is Mr. Davis visiting with the market staff there at the market. So real quick, our agenda for today, we're gonna have I have some questions that I'm gonna go ahead and ask of our panelists. We'll spend probably about 15, 20 minutes doing that, and then we'll open it up for questions from the audience. So to give a quick background, the goal for this visit was really to engage with Mr. Davis. Mr. Davis was identified because he sits on the House Agriculture Committee, and in particular is a Republican who sits on the House Agriculture Committee, who had to this point expressed some interest in farmers markets, and the goal was to bring him out to the market to see federal programs that the House Agriculture Committee has oversight over, to see those programs in action and really give him a sense of what it takes to run those programs and what it means to have those programs at farmers markets for both customers and for farmers. So the first question I have here, I'm going to pose to Janie. Janie, I went ahead and unmuted you. And question here for you is, what prep that was done in advance of this visit do you feel like made the visit a success?
I think we did a number of things before the visit that really contributed to its success. But I think the very first thing we did is we assembled a great team. We really did have a great team. We had Corey Chapman from Link Up Illinois, the Old Capital Farmers Market, the Illinois Stewardship Alliance, who, in addition to overseeing the Old Capital Farmers Market, does a lot of policy and advocacy work in Illinois, and then also ILFMA. So we felt like we had a really strong team, and we were also looking for a market or people who work within the market system who might already have a relationship with Representative Davis's office, which the Illinois Stewardship Alliance did have prior to this outreach, and so they were a perfect fit for this particular opportunity. So we had this great team. I guess preparations, it didn't seem very difficult. We had a great team, and we met a few times in advance by phone, and we delegated the responsibilities between us. We wanted to make sure that we were well versed on the talking points about how the federal programs impacted our particular organizations, and then also the individual consumer and the farmer vendor at the farmers markets. So I think we were all really well prepared. I have a feeling that we could have talked to Representative Davis about all the things that we're very passionate about. But we also worked closely with the farmers market to ensure that there were local constituents and farmers that were well versed in how their particular programs had impacted them. Because we know that elected officials like to hear from the people that elect them about how the programs actually impact them. So we worked on that. We worked on the logistics. We tried to figure out as much about Representative Davis as we could in advance, things that might be of interest to him. Did he drink coffee or Diet Coke? And we found out all of those kinds of things. But we also worked a lot on the ask, making sure that we were able to come up with not only just a really great visit for Representative Davis, but that he walked away knowing that we had something that we wanted him to do for us. And so we then put into a farmer's market bag all the information about the different programs, about all the different programs, and then our official ask letter, so that when he went back to the office, he had a written copy of the types of information that were covered for the day. So overall, it seemed like everybody contributed their part, and it was a relatively easy preparation for the visit.
Thanks, Janie. So the next question I've got, and this is for Lindsay. Lindsay, I've unmuted you as well. From your perspective, particularly as the market manager out there, what was done the day of that ensured that the visit with Representative Davis was a success?
Sure, we did a bunch the day of, but we were also really lucky to be given a lot of preparation. So we worked behind the scenes to make sure that everything was ready to go the day of. But some of the things that we did was we had all of our experts on hand. So thank goodness I wasn't there. I got to talk about the part I knew, and then when he asked a question that could be better answered by Corey was right behind us, or Dale with our Farmers Market Association. So we had Molly there with Illinois Stewardship Alliance, who helped answer a question about the September slump and how less people come to farmers market once school starts back up. So we just had a really great team that was able to answer questions based on their expertise. Wes was there with NSAC, National Sustainable Agriculture Coalition, so I never felt like I was trying to dig for an answer because someone that knew it better than me was there. So that was really helpful. We also we picked out the vendors. We ran their addresses to make sure that they were actually constituents, because Springfield's kind of a funky, congressional lines go kind of funky through Springfield. So we made sure that they were actually his constituents, and we made sure they knew what federal programs they were taking advantage of. A lot of times they knew what they did, but they didn't understand which program was responsible for helping them out. We also prepped them a little bit, told them the purpose of the visit, that they were welcome to share with the congressman anything about their story, and these are the points we were trying to hit on. It was also really nice that we all went on the tour with him, because I could kind of fill in. The vendors are very good at telling their story, and we were kind of responsible for the statistics and the facts that back it up. So the vendors and the farmers got to tell kind of the part that they were experts on, and we got to fill it in. And I was also able to say, oh, and aren't you also starting at some beer festivals and looking for a brick and mortar building? So because I knew the vendors, I was able to kind of prod them into saying some of the things that we wanted and they might be forgetting. So that was really nice. We also made sure that we timed the tour so that we would be back to, and Jane mentioned this a little bit, Andy was making our ask, and he kind of has a relationship with Rodney Davis, where he did a farmer fly-in, and he just had some experience speaking to him. So we made sure that we doubled back to talk to Andy right at the end, and he made his hard ask for, this is what we want you to support. And we prepped Andy with the name of the marker bill, the name of who's already co-sponsoring it. So we did a lot of prep to our vendors to make sure they knew what was happening and they didn't feel put on the spot. And then, we also, so when I talked about the SNAP program, we brought him right behind the table. We let him come in and see how the machine worked. We let him dig into the tokens. I think he counted out a stack of 10 tokens for us. So, and he asked some really great questions about exactly how it works. And we showed him that our wireless machine could go out, and we showed him how we collected tokens at the end. So we really got him involved, and that helped him ask some questions about the logistics of how it all worked, which was really nice to hear him thinking and getting his gears turning. And then the last thing we did was we only had him for 30 minutes. So the whole time I was rushing him along and vendors along saying, all right, we've got to make it to the next thing, make it to the next thing. But we really took advantage of his whole time there. We made sure that he got to hit vendors that talked about how SNAP customers have improved their business, how the farmers market builds their business. We made sure he hit vendors that talked about a lot of important things. And then we took advantage of his time to ask him some questions about why the farmers market's important, and we got that all on film. And that was a really big piece of it because we took him around and showed him why it was important, and then we kind of put him on the spot to tell us, do you really understand why this is important?
Great, thanks, Lindsay. So the next question I have, this is for Corey, this is for you. And I'm just going to go ahead and unmute you here, Corey, if I
Can you hear me?
Yeah, there we go. Corey, the question for you is, what did you learn from the visit? What did we learn from the visit?
I learned, and I was very impressed about how easy it was to put the visit together. I think it had a lot to do with the prep work we did ahead of time. It was probably a combination of things. All the prep work we did, the great team that was assembled, the fact that the market is such an awesome place, and just the marketing team there on the ground. And it probably didn't hurt that the representative is on the ad committee too, and farmers markets are in his wheelhouse. But just how well it came together, how easy it felt that it actually happened during market day was really impressive to me. And I've done some organization or been a part of organizing visits from other state and local elected officials before. And this by far just felt like the smoothest one that I've ever been a part of. So that was my biggest takeaway. It was, I think we were a little nervous beforehand, but all the prep work we did kind of mitigated a lot of that. And Lindsay was awesome on the ground too. I want to say she carried the ball for 90% of the time. The little questions that we answered were just clarifying things that probably dealt on a national level. But the staff on the ground was awesome. And I found that the representative himself was pretty engaging and on the ball. I think often we think of our elected officials as not quite being connected to the issues that we have. But Rep. Davis really I felt as though his engaging questions, the way he really dug into some of the issues, made me feel as though he really understood the needs and benefits of a farmer's market. And another takeaway that I would probably encourage other markets is to remember a few really key things when inviting a representative to your market. One, they more than likely want to engage folks that are in their neighborhood and actually vote for them. And that's one of the powerful things farmers markets does. You're gathering together a lot of folks that probably are interested in voting. And I'm pretty sure any one of your elected officials will probably want to come out on a sunny day and have share some food and have a chat with folks that are happily going along visiting a farmer's market. So don't be discouraged. Be very encouraged about approaching your elected official, drawing them into the market. And if you don't want to go after, let's say, a federal representative like a senator or a congressman, maybe start small with a local mayor or a councilman and try to draw them in and learn from that experience. But again, my biggest takeaway, it all came together really well. It felt really easy. It didn't feel contrived. It felt like it just flowed naturally.
Great, thanks, Corey. So I'm just going to take a second to talk about the outcomes and from the visit, and the most, as has been alluded to, Illinois Stewardship Council was doing some filming for a fundraising video and was insightful enough to go ahead and get the congressman in front of the camera and use that as an opportunity for them to sort of, first of all, give him an opportunity to say his piece, but also use that to their advantage. So of the outcomes, this is in many ways one of the most a fortunate coincidence that we can't always expect to have, but it's a wonderful example of what can happen when you do bring your elected officials out to market. So I'm going to go ahead and play this video, excuse me, and then we'll talk a little bit about some of the other outcomes as a result of the visit as well, and then we'll open it up for questions.
About your experience with farmers markets?
Well, you know, I always enjoy visiting farmers markets throughout my district, not only to buy produce and shop, but also to see them in action, because it's important for every member of Congress like me who serves on the House Agriculture Committee, who has jurisdiction over our SNAP program and the Double Bucks program that I got to see here today. It's important to go out into your district and see how that affects our constituents, see how it gets healthy foods into the homes and at the tables.
Is there anything else you'd like to add about agriculture or family farmers in Illinois?
Well, it's great to see that we not only have this farmers market growing, but as I was driving up today, I'm seeing some of the towns in between my hometown of Taylorville and Springfield have farmers markets pop up, and you see them grow. You see the growing popularity. I think that shows. It shows that there's a lot of success from the marketing programs. It shows there's a lot of success in getting those who need access to food the most the ability to come here. And it's not just based on income anymore. It's based on what people should be eating and how they should be eating. And this is a great place to see all that happen.
Awesome. Well, thank you.
Thank you.
I really appreciate it.
Hey, thanks.
And tell us about your experience with.
All right, so as you can see, this was a great opportunity, and Representative Davis had some wonderful things to say about the market. Also, out of this visit to the market, this has opened some doors for follow-up conversations. So staff from Illinois Stewardship Council as well as Farmers Market Coalition have followed up with Representative Davis and his staff. One of the asks that that Lindsay alluded to was interest in a marker bill that relates to farmers markets, and based on this visit, Representative Davis instructed his legislative agricultural staff to take a look at that marker bill, and he's currently considering co-sponsoring it, which is a significant outcome. And it also has given him a much greater understanding of some of these topics that are of importance to us. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and open it up to questions. We've already got a couple questions in the queue. So let's see. The first question is from Chris Curtis. So the question here is, how big is the market in terms of number of vendors, number of shoppers? How many SNAP benefit dollars go through the market? So Lindsay, could you answer that one for us?
Yeah, I started answering it there in the chat. Our market's about 4 city blocks. We're kind of in like a cross layout. We have about 70 vendors that come each Saturday, but it fluctuates throughout the year. We have about 100 that come at least once a year. So my full list of vendors is pretty long, but we only have to map about 60 to 70 each Saturday. It's a pretty decent sized market. We've just gotten into doing our customer counts. So we've got about 3,500 people that come every Saturday, which is insane. And it's something we've been vastly underreporting. So that data collection is super important. So now we can actually say that we bring almost 4,000 people downtown every Saturday, every weekend. It's tapering down now here in the fall. And then Chris was also asking how many SNAP benefit dollars go through our market. And the number that's on the top of my head is how much we've doubled, which is, it's close to 7,000, 6,500, 7,000 between that right now. So that means about 14,000 in SNAP dollars have gone through the market. So that's also pretty significant. We were able to talk to Rep. Davis a little bit about how if there's any stigma around SNAP and bring it to the market, and we were able to say absolutely not. My vendors would never be against anything that brings $15,000 of dollars into our market to be spent at our market. So that was really cool to be able to communicate with him, because he's such an advocate for small businesses and a Republican. So you think he values small businesses and farmers, and we were able to say it benefits. This program gets to benefit everyone. It's win-win for everyone who comes to the market, everyone who shops, and all the vendors as well.
Great, thanks, Lindsay. Jen Cheek, Farmers Market Coalition Executive Director, is posing a question. And just for anybody who wants to ask questions, feel free to either use the raise hand function or go ahead and type it into the chat, and we'll go ahead and read it out. Jen's question was, will the market and supporting groups keep in touch? Is there a plan for continued relationship building? Janie or Corey, you guys want to handle that one?
Well, I know that we have a plan. We're going to be writing him a letter from ILFMA, thanking him for coming and participating in the market tour. I think we also have continued opportunities to reach out. One of the other things that I guess happened as a result of the visit is there was a pretty strong ask from Representative Davis to local farmers and vendors to attend the House Agriculture Committee listening session in Decatur. Lindsay, did you go to that?
I didn't get to go. I was here running the market, but we sent all of our staff, and it was a really great opportunity. So yeah, Representative Davis had brought it up, and we had already been pushing our members and people in our networks, so we kind of doubled down on our push. And Rebecca might be able to type in, I'm not sure how many we sent. I think it was about 20 people that we sent to the listening session. 25, she says, and quite a few of them got to speak.
Right.
And the cool part, and also a little disheartening part, was that most of the people there were not part of the small farm, sustainable ag, organic farmers market world. They were larger conventional agriculture speakers that were coming to talk about crop insurance and things that were important to them. And so our people were able to have a presence there because we called them all and said, please go, and here's some things we'd love you to talk about. So yeah, that was a really cool follow-up that came because of it. And I know Rebecca says 10 of them spoke. And we had a gentleman from National Young Farmers Coalition that came, and he was able to address a comment that a conventional farmer had said, maybe we can cut organic programs to fund this. And one of our members was able to say, hey, I want to address that comment from earlier, that we don't support that, and that's important to us that organic funding does not get cut. So it was really cool, because had our people not been there, that wouldn't have happened. Some of those comments would have just been said and gotten to lay there. So yeah, thanks for bringing that up. I forgot about this listening session. It was really cool that we got to drive people there.
Thanks, Lindsay. Thanks, Janie. I'd also mention that, I think Jen's question here was, she knows some of the backstory, but to prompt this question, because this is an important piece of a visit, is that, our suggestion and our goal here is to build ongoing relationships. And so that's a key piece to this, is that the follow-up is also quite important. So those thank you notes and those follow-up visits are hugely important. And so in this particular case, and if other folks have visits and they would like the support, Farmers Market Coalition here is happy to continue those relationships, particularly with legislative staff in Washington, D.C., to help build that connection between what's happening at the local level within the markets and then, at the federal policy level, because particularly as we are in Farm Bill time, it's particularly important that happen. Again, reminder, if you have any questions, feel free to use the raise hand function or type them into the chat box. I got another question here about social media, which we hadn't mentioned yet, but there was social media around this, and maybe for some of our participants, to what extent was that planned? And also Representative Davis' staff, his Twitter account clearly covered it. So to what extent was that a coordinated effort?
So our social media effort was really after the fact. We didn't promote it very much. Our Facebook page is pretty heavily followed by our market customers. We knew we only had 30 minutes of his time, and we really wanted each interaction to be meaningful, so we didn't promote very much ahead of time. But we took a ton of pictures during and said, hey, he was here, he saw our market, he got to meet with our vendors, look at this cool story. And then we were also able to connect with Congressman Davis's staff through social media, because they posted and took a lot of the same pictures. So we were able to say, thank you for your visit, come back anytime, get a hold of us. If you ever want to come back, or if anyone else wants to see it, or if we can offer another market that someone might be interested in going to. So I don't know if it was a coordinated effort. I don't know how much maybe Farmers Market Association and Link Up Illinois did on social media. You might ask them.
Well, we shared everything. We shared what Springfield was able to post, and we'll continue to do that and use it as the backdrop for some of the policy asks as we move forward. Those are really key in the next legislative year.
And I have to admit, one of the tools that's not in my tool shed is social media. So I didn't do much on social media for this event.
Great. It appears that we don't have any current questions. So again, if anybody has any questions, feel free to go ahead and type them either in the chat box, use the raise hand function. Let's see. So also joining us today is Kathy Zeman. Kathy is the operations manager for the Minnesota Farmers Market Association. Kathy, I'm going to go ahead and unmute you, and wondering if you might just tell us a little bit about the visit that you guys had with Senator Al Franken.
Our approach was a little bit different. I often think that photo ops, are the glitter on the Christmas tree. It's not the tree, it's not the bulbs, it's not the lights, it's just that tinsel you throw on at the end. It, gets you can find yourself in the Google alerts later, and you'll get some buzz on social media. But so our approach is based on our long-term public policy efforts. So we had Franken, we sent him specifically to a market when he was available, they were available, and it had as many USDA programs as possible operating there, with many of our underserved ag farmers. So we tried to wrap that all in, and that was good. Everybody's distracted when that happens, because it's, everybody's glad handing and shaking hands. Our real intent, because our outreach with the Franken staff really happened back in February. And then we just kind of bring that forward. And then the following day, we got to spend 6 hours with Franken staff going to a couple of farmers that had participated in some USDA programs, went to a farmer's market, again, that had some USDA programs. And then we had supper with them at a restaurant that buys all of their produce from farmers markets. And that was trying to, make sure that we close that loop with them. And so our approach on this is to create relationships with these folks. I'm sometimes a little, and that's what we did. So we got Bree and Paula know us, and we know them. And certainly we came up with a handout that described, that little glimpse of the programs that our farmers take advantage of in Minnesota. But really it was what we really do need to see if we're going to make local food sheds viable again. And I say again because they used to be viable, and then all of those dollars shifted to commodity ag, and we'll either need to see a shift back or create new dollars. Good luck to all of that under our current regime. So that was our purpose, and so that's what we're going to do. So the photo ops during National Farmers Market Week, they're great. We had Representative Nolan at the Wadena Farmers Market. We had Representative Keith Ellison at our string of organic farmers on 320th Street through our land stewardship project. So it did appear in Minnesota that there was a Democratic effort to get out and look at local food shed efforts, because again, under the Trump regime, that entire budget has been slashed to zero. So I think that our folks, at least, were trying to find out where there has been benefit, solid, real benefit, not, tons of money going out the door, but actually creative either economic development or increased food safety, or increased food access without bankrupting farmers, because that's kind of that tricky one. So that's what we did. So, as far as, having Franken come to a farmer's market, or any representative or a politician come to a farmer's market, I actually think there's a caution to that. Sometimes, it's like the politician who wants to have the shot of the baby in the picture, and then he throws the baby, or she throws the baby back at the mom, and that's the last thing we see. So I want to make sure that farmers markets, or the farming, especially the local food shed farming, our food farmers, don't give cover, and don't let the politicians take some of our message for themselves without it being really, truly legitimate for them. So that's kind of our struggle here. We're going to make sure that, so our photo ops during National Farmers Market Week is just a little tiny piece of the big puzzle to do, good public policy regarding local food shed issues in Minnesota and then nationwide, right?
Great, thank you, Kathy. I'm not seeing any additional questions, so I'm going to take this opportunity. We had, our goal was to try and keep this conversation on the shorter side and let you guys have your full day in order to do all the work that many of you need to do. So I'll just take this last moment here as an opportunity to encourage those of you who are participating in this to reach out to your elected officials, again, whatever level. We are, of course, in the throes of active Farm Bill work. However, it's important to keep in mind that legislators and elected officials at all levels are influential over policies that impact farmers markets, and many politicians who are currently in city council or state level positions are likely to run for federal positions at some point in the future. So, starting those relationships early and building them long term is something that's hugely important. And just a reminder, the Farmers Market Coalition is here to help support those efforts. Part of my role here with the Farmers Market Coalition is to support exactly that. So I'm just going to go ahead and put up on the screen contact information here for myself as well as our participants in today's conversation. I've also got contact information here for Wes King with the National Sustainable Agriculture Coalition. Wasn't able to join us for the conversation today, but you can see him there in the picture with the sunglasses. So again, thank you all so much for taking some time out of your day to participate in this conversation. Hugely important stuff. We appreciate your time and look forward to talking to you in the future. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.